thrilling. I was invited to go to Kingscliff today, the Kingscliff TAFE, where they were having a expo of sustainable living. It was good to see the place packed out. Well, there's a very good crowd there, so it was good to see. They invited me to speak there about tiny houses on wheels. And what they were trying to promote is eating better, sustainable food production, water, reduced water wastage, reduced wastage in general, recycling, and a host of other things which including affordable housing, related to tiny houses on wheels. It was received quite well. There was a good crowd, and I managed to meet a couple of great people as well. So here's a bit of a look at a journey in New South Wales for the day.
Tiny home rolling pastures. Ben heads the Sunshine Coast not-for-profit organisation which specialises in the construction of custom-built tiny houses on wheels and do-it-yourself tiny house on wheels kits. In recognition of the widespread desire to redesign the modern lifestyle, Tiny Home Rolling Pasture provides a vehicle to enhance community, reduce waste, promote mindful consumption and create affordable housing. So let's put our hands together.
Thanks for the warm welcome. I have come from the Sunshine Coast today to speak with you, and I don't want to speak too much at you. Certainly don't want to be here to advertise to you in regards to our venture. However, I do want to give you as much value as I can in terms of learning about tiny houses. So I'll speak for as long as I can see you're interested, and then I'm happy to throw it open to you for questions. Can I just get a quick show of hands though? Who is here specifically to hear about tiny houses? Great. And who is here just because they wandered into the room and at their own time, the wrong time? All right, so let's go. I'm speaking to my people, and that's great. So just talk a little bit off camera there about, isn't it a shame that tiny houses on wheels don't particularly fit into the greater scheme of things at the moment here in the Tweed Shire? Can you tell me what are some of the obstacles in the way of the growing swell of interest in tiny houses on wheels? What's the obstacle to stop people from living full-time in their tiny houses on wheels in the Tweed Shire?
Yeah, look, it's not just a Tweed thing, Ben. It's really the New South Wales planning system where we've got a fair bit of catch-up to do. And I think it's really just been a very recent, the last several years where there's been a strong interest, and certainly a strong interest in our council. And unfortunately, the planning system as it currently stands and our current planning controls don't necessarily facilitate the ready allocation or siting of tiny homes, even on mobile facility structures, to be placed on sites. And you can imagine in a new subdivision where someone who's building a conventional home in a setting with various planning controls, and someone wants to place a small house, it starts to challenge people's perceptions, and it doesn't readily. Our planning controls don't necessarily respond well to those circumstances. So I think that certainly as a broader planning system, we've got to start, I think, going through seeking changes through our state-based system, and that will filter through to the local system, where we can say clearly where are those areas that are most suited to tiny homes. Like there's obviously going to be those areas which are, particularly in a regional area like the Tweed, where you have quite significant environmental constraints such as flooding, environmental overlays, those types of things, that you really need to find those areas that you can readily place these structures in safety, but also affordability and also efficiently in terms of the actual land subdivisions, etc.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that the main concerns are the NIMBYism, not in my backyard. People don't want it because it affects values. Is that correct?
That's
and
correct.
The second reason is that is there some sort of concern about safety?
Yeah, look, I think particularly in areas that are like a Tweed area that is certainly subject to significant flooding risk, and whilst there's areas which are in higher areas than others, we're obviously in a major river valley, and a lot of our areas are in a low-lying area. So it's making sure that that the actual siting and the ability for any sort of emergency evacuation type activity, that we're able to have safe access to drier ground, and making sure that people are aware that you do need to be able to conscious of those things when they occur.
So would you agree then, Vince, that tiny houses on wheels might actually be very suitable for areas that were previously considered unsuitable for housing because you had to build on foundations in those areas? Being on wheels, of course, you've got much more chance of evacuating quite easily, evacuating the whole living domicile and not just people from the area.
Yeah, it's a good point. That has been one of the major impediments to, say, the more conventional caravan park style and manufacture type activities, where the actual houses are still considered to be a mobile facility, but most people are not have either the capacity or the sort of willingness to move their facilities. Whereas, as you're saying, yes, there could well be a market there and a suitability for having a more mobile, transportable facility that you can take around in times of danger.
Sure. Well, I think sometimes we're our own worst critics, Vince.
Yeah.
And you should really be patting yourself on the back. Not only as a state, New South Wales have pioneered granny flat restriction loosenings over the last decade, which have in fact set the tone for the rest of Australia, which is great. Also in New South Wales, you have quite a few structures, legal structures and entities, where people can live in a way that they aren't able to live in the rest of Australia, in terms of legal setups and agreements where people can share land. What way do you see forward to bring both of those things together so that you've got a granny flat situation or more than one dwelling on a property, not necessarily in suburbia, potentially, and as well as having those legal structures where people can live together, not necessarily in the family unit, which has basically shaped our housing policy?
Yeah, look, there are instances, certainly in our rural areas, where, particularly in the North Coast, where the concept of a multiple occupancy development has been very prevalent. I suppose the issue there is that those types of developments are very generally, people come in with the same types of values, and they buy into a company structure and have an equal right and everything. But what happens over time is that people's life circumstances change, and the ability to sell their portion of land or to gain finances has certain restrictions. So that structure, I know there's a lot of work being done in various states, like I think certainly South Australia, looking at some models, and Victoria, I know in Melbourne themselves, looking at more closely those collective models where people don't have to buy the conventional lot, traditional lot. They're able to buy a portion of a company or some form of governance structure which allows them to have their own sense of their own space and their own ability to have a dwelling, but at the same time they've got the flexibility and freedom to move around if they need to.
Sure, Vince, I think there's a lot of merit in that. There is always concern, of course, when you're setting up some sort of intentional community-based living, that you get it right from the start so that people are on the same wavelength in terms of what's expected. Do you see a future for blockchain technology to give people a digital reputation whereby they can roll up into a community having, I guess, backing or some sort of
vouching electronically or in the blockchain to let everyone know in that community that they're going to be a good neighbour and they've got a good digital reputation.
Okay, so that's certainly we should be making the fullest use of emerging technology. I think that's certainly what there's the capacity these days, certainly of establishing the credentials of a living community, and I think that's what everyone wants to know, that they've got a safe and consistent environment with people basically there for the same type of reasons. So yeah, no, I think there's definitely potential there for